This is the Porsche that no one talks about. It's not a 911, it's not a track weapon, heck, it's not even the most expensive Porsche they make. But in some ways, it might be the smartest Porsche buy that you can make right now. I'm Derek, welcome to 11 After 9. Very excited to share the story of a Porsche that has finally come into its own. I'm going to give you the inside look into my 2013 Porsche Cayenne S. And today, I'm going to show you why it's the most overlooked and undervalued Porsche on sale today. If you're looking for a daily driver and you want a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, comfortable, luxurious ride, but when the time comes, it really gets down in boogies, then this is absolutely the car for you. We're going to go through a little bit of its backstory. I'm going to give you a real-world breakdown on what makes it special. We'll take it for a drive, and at the end, I'll tell you why this SUV is the best all-around Porsche for daily life. Let's get into it. So why is this specific generation, internal designation 958, so interesting? First off, it's the last naturally aspirated V8 you could get in a Cayenne S. This thing makes 400 horsepower, 369 pound-feet of torque, and there is not a turbo in sight. So essentially what that means is you have linear power delivery, throttle response that is absolutely immediate, and that sound is pure mechanical V8. It is so satisfying in the way a lot of modern SUVs just aren't. So this isn't just another luxury SUV. This is a proper Porsche with performance, heritage, and daily comfort. So a quick history on the Porsche Cayenne lineup. It was introduced in 2003, and it was Porsche's first SUV, and it was initially unbelievably controversial. How could this German car company that has been known for, at that point, 40 years of technical innovation, bring out an abomination, something that weighed over 5,000 pounds and had four-wheel drive and a center-locking differential? What are they thinking? They've lost the plot. Well, it turns out that Porsche actually has the last laugh, and when the Porsche Cayenne debuted, it was a resounding success. Now, the looks might have been considered a little controversial. It shared the same runny egg headlight configuration as the Porsche 911 and Porsche Boxster at the time, and it might have looked a little bubble-like to those early adopters, but it sold like hotcakes. Perhaps Porsche looked at its audience and said, well, we have people that drive sports cars on the weekends, really enjoy them for special occasions, but then they go and get in their dreary, day-to-day, normal conveyance, whether it's an SUV or a sedan, and they really wait and hope for the weekend so they can get back behind the wheel of a Porsche. Well, look, public, here you go. Now you can be behind the wheel of a Porsche every single day of the week. And you can bring your family with you, and your family dog, and a complete trunk full of groceries. And you can tow your boat, but you can still do 0 to 60 in under 7 seconds. It was with that generation that I actually took my first test drive in a Porsche Cayenne Turbo. I remember it distinctly that someone gave me a go behind the wheel in downtown Boston. He encouraged me to throw it around the curves getting onto Starro Drive way faster than I felt comfortable. He kept asking me to push it. He said, it's so stable, go faster. I didn't have the fortitude to do it because at that time, the idea of throwing a 5,000, 6,000 pound SUV around these corners was completely unheard of. Fast forward to today, and you wouldn't think twice about staying up with your friends that are in faster sports cars. In 2008, Porsche came out with their Dot 2 or their facelifted version of that first generation of Cayenne. A lot of the lines were eased, and it traded out those headlights for something that was a little bit more agreeable for the general public. It still was very much a truck. As a matter of fact, Porsche made a point to make sure in their first debut of the Cayenne that it could hang with the very best. Locking differentials, air suspension for ride height, grab handles galore. It was a real machine, and it was built like a rock. It wasn't until 2011, with the 958 internal designation, that Porsche ushered in a much more modern, refined design. Also, I'd argue, they really got some feedback from the public and realized that maybe the public didn't want a truck that was set up to do the Trans-Siberian race or ford 3-foot streams. Maybe what they wanted was something that looked tough going down their dirt roads to their lake house and maybe through the drive-thru at Starbucks. So from that point on, Porsche really leaned into the sports car part of their heritage. And I would argue that the Cayenne really became much more refined and drove more like a Porsche, more like a sports car than ever before. It was quicker, it was sharper, and it was even more well built. A lot of the small little issues that had plagued the first generation were really ironed out when the 958 debuted. I think that this generation Porsche Cayenne is actually very easy on the eye. It's muscular, it has all the right curves and haunches, but at the same time, it's also svelte. It mirrors the 911 and the Porsche heritage while still somehow being its own. The front three-quarter view is perhaps my favorite. I think the headlights really do meld into the front grille with a muscular hood bulge hiding that terrific V8. Porsche also threw all the goodies at this generation. You could get it with optional air suspension, PDCC, Sport Chrono, Sport Exhaust, you name it. And that was just the S version. The turbo version was another huge jump up. The 958 became sleek, muscular, and it carries the Porsche DNA without shouting about it. It flies under the radar in all the right ways, but stands tall next to its competitions. And inside the cabin, analog gauges, physical buttons, a cabin that feels like Porsche took driver engagement seriously, even in an SUV. No giant iPads bolted to the dash, no overprocessed haptics, just solid quality controls and a cockpit that still feels special and luxurious today. We'll get into the reliability in a minute, but I think that the build quality in this car is fantastic. The doors still close with a solid clunk, the steering is sure-footed, the buttons have a very comfortable click to them, the shifting action with the automatic transmission is sure and reliable. Other things that I love about the interior are the ergonomics. The visibility is fantastic. There are very few blind spots when you're driving this car. You have full flat seats, you have plenty of cargo room in the back. Now listen, I'm going to admit to all of you that my beautiful wife drives this car as her daily. And so while I know there's a ton of cargo space because we've packed it with plenty of suitcases for long trips, it mostly is constantly full of bags we mean to take to Goodwill to donate that tend to live in there for weeks at a time. But what are you going to do? The seats are supremely comfortable, and quite a few examples came with not only heated seats but ventilated seats as well. The driving position is fantastic. The steering wheel is just the right size. It is, in other words, an incredibly nice place to be. I've driven in this car for 7, 8, 9 hours at a time with absolutely no issues and no sore back when I'm done. Fuel economy is around 16 to 22 miles per gallon, depending on how heavy you are with your right foot. Listen, it's not a Prius, but it is shocking to get that kind of mileage from a big old V8. At 12 years old, the interior continues to look just as good as the day I bought it, over 100,000 miles ago. And yes, this car actually has close to 135,000 miles. Purchased it used in 2016 with roughly 32,000 miles on it. And so I feel like I'm very well positioned to talk about the value propositions, which I think really brings us right into the discussion about reliability. It is shocking how reliable this Porsche Cayenne is. You would expect for such a high-end brand to have multiple issues over the years, especially things that might plague you that are inherent to the brand. In more than 100,000 miles, I've only ever had 2 issues with the car outside of normal oil changes and swaps from winter tires to summer tires. The Porsche mechanics at the dealership leaned over to me and told me they regularly see these Cayennes come in with 300,000 to 400,000 miles on them if they're taken care of well. And since my wife loves this car and really wants to drive it into the ground, we might just see that. So reason number 2 for buying this car, it is incredibly reliable for what it is. It has just enough technology, Bluetooth, nav, air-conditioned seats, ventilated seats to give you the creature comforts that let you do long drives, except that it's not so weighed down with technological gizmos that will break over time, that I think it is the perfect mix. Okay, let's talk about the driving impressions because I think ultimately that's really where the rubber meets the road. I think I would describe this car first as being a luxury car rather than a sports truck. And by that I mean it is surprisingly quiet. At mid speeds to high speeds, it is a lovely place to be. When the windows are up, you really don't hear any wind noise, and the road hum that comes through its big tires is actually very subdued. It's a relaxing place to be if you're just cruising. Admittedly, the steering is a little vague. We are now in the generation of E-Pass, the electric power assisted steering, and so it is boosted and it does not give you very much feedback. As a matter of fact, I think that the E-Pass that is on the Boxsters and the 911s at the time actually give you more feedback. I can't speak for the GTS version or the turbo version of this car, but I wouldn't necessarily buy the Cayenne S for its unbelievably telepathic steering. That being said, it's very direct, it's weighted very nicely, and you always know where the front wheels are. And so it certainly does its job. Cayenne S comes with large upgraded brakes, and it does a very nice job of bringing this train to a stop. Again, if you're going to be comparing it to sports cars, sure, the braking distances are longer, it's a much heavier truck. But if you're going to put it up head-to-head with its competition at the time, it acquits itself incredibly well. With cornering, the suspension stays flat. My truck has the upgraded air suspension, and so you get to lower it if you'd like for a little bit more sportier driving. It does have that classic airbag feel that you have to get used to over time, but once you do, you know exactly where the truck is going to be. So let's very quickly talk about one thing I don't love about the Cayenne. And just like all Porsches in normal mode, the automatic transmission wants to be in the highest gear possible at all times. This means it's not uncommon in an 8-speed transmission to find yourself at 45 miles an hour and in 7th gear, maybe even 8th gear. Because this V8 has such unbelievable torque, even at 1500 RPMs where it likes to cruise, it still will pull and get you up to speed as you like. But I will admit that it can feel a little sluggish if you're always in the highest gear. Push the sport button, however, and things change drastically. The transmission's programmed to drop down a couple gears, and it becomes much peppier. This, out of almost any SUV, and even some cars that I've driven, exemplifies of a rubber band. This motor pulls like stink. You can feel it building, and it continues to pull faster and faster. And if you take this truck all the way up to redline, you are moving. It's amazing to me that torque curve must be sitting almost up near the red line because it doesn't stop pulling until it shifts. It's very addicting, but the problem is you are going very fast in 2nd or 3rd gear if you're seeing those kind of revs. And so this is definitely not a backroad cruiser. This is not something you're taking out and just driving around on the twisties for the love of it. It'll definitely handle it, but around corners, if you're going into them a little too fast, you definitely feel the weight. But God, does this motor pull. It is a fantastic piece of machinery, and that is why I would always go with an S over a base for this model. And this is the third reason why you should buy this Cayenne. Let's compare this Porsche Cayenne S to the competition at the time, and I'll tell you why this stands head and shoulders above all of them, and even some of the newer SUVs you can buy today. 2013 Range Rover Sport. It's plush, but a lot less reliable. It's also a lot less sporty. The BMW X5, xDrive 50. It's quicker on paper, it has a big old V8, makes great sounds, but it definitely lacks that Porsche driving feel. The Mercedes ML63 AMG, that thing is a brute, but it's way heavier and it is way more expensive to maintain. For SUVs, maybe even newer than 2020, sure they have more tech, but most are either numb to drive or they just feel like appliances. They don't have that special Porsche feel that Porsche was able to incorporate into this amazing vehicle. And I think this is where the Cayenne S really wins. Resale values are very stable. The depreciation has already hit. These cars are a decade or even a decade and a half old, with mileage anywhere from 70 to 100,000 miles for the low to mid-teens. This is such a smoking deal. It's a Porsche through and through. It's cheaper than any Panamera, certainly any 911. It's even cheaper than Macans at the time for some reason. For those of you in the modifying crew, you can change out the wheels, you can change out the exhaust, you can even change out the intake if you want to dial things up. You can see in my example I actually have aftermarket wheels because mine originally came with the turbo wheels. I think they were like 21 inches or something, and they were frankly a little bit too big and led to a harsher ride. And so I brought them down to 19s, and I think it's absolutely perfect. You can daily drive this thing without babying it. It's got a balanced blend of performance, utility, and presence. And I can't think of a better vehicle and a better value if you're a Porsche lover looking for a family hauler or practical daily driving. This thing does it all, and if you love the brand like I do, it gives you the ability to be behind the Porsche crest 7 days a week, enjoying yet another flavor of the Porsche ice cream. So here's the deal. For the price of a used Econobox crossover, or even that used Macan, you can get a V8 Porsche with heritage, performance, comfort, and true daily usability. How are you all not running out and buying one right now? And the thing is, for those of us that own them, I'm sorry, but the secret's out, because while everyone else is out there chasing turbocharged 911s or overpriced special models, the Porsche Cayenne S 958 is sitting right there, quietly being the best kept secret in the Porsche world. I hope you all enjoyed this video and I was adequately able to get across the value proposition of such an amazing car. Please, if you don't mind, subscribe down below. We're still a very young YouTube channel and we really welcome all the subscribers, and more importantly, the feedback we're getting below is fantastic. I try to respond to everyone because I really love how invested you all are. And with that, I'll say thank you and we'll see you on the next one.